Now, I know I said back in September that in that international break I'd be doing my final Championship League prediction video, but screw it, we're in the November international break, and I thought, why not do another updated one? So today I'm going to update my Championship League table once again, and this will be it. No more updates after this. I don't want to predict it again because the next international break will pretty much be March and will be near the end of the season, so it'll be too easy to predict it. So I am going to put my neck out on the line right here, and this will be it. So on this side, we have got what was my last Championship League table prediction from 1 to 24, and there was also one previous to that, which I did in pre-season, which was a complete shot in the dark. Obviously, a lot of that changed leading into the latest one. Today, we're going to update it once more, starting from bottom to top. So let's go from 24th upwards. So, in 24th, this might surprise you, but I've decided to stick with Plymouth Argyle. Now, I know they're in a decent position right now, and I know there are a lot of teams who have certainly had worse seasons than them. Portsmouth and QPR especially come to mind. But Plymouth still aren't that far away from safety, and the one big worry I have, it isn't actually Wayne Rooney. It isn't him. He was my big concern previous, but it's their away form. Their away form is absolutely hopeless. They've scored twice in the league on the road all season. They just don't look remotely competitive on the road at all, and that puts so much heavy reliance on their home form. I still just don't feel convinced that their home form alone will keep them in the Championship, because their away form shows absolutely no signs of picking up. That on top of, I think, them having a weakish squad. We're going into a very busy period of games now. I could see Plymouth gradually slipping into the bottom three, and I do think there are teams in there and below them already who have better squads, and I think when they get their act together, will probably overtake them. So I'm still quite certain that Plymouth, unfortunately, because I like them as a club, will be in the bottom three, but I have stuck and kept them bottom. In 23rd, this one pains me because this is a team I felt confident pre-season. I still sort of had confidence in them when I last did my league table prediction, but I have dropped them 4 places. I've put Pompey in 23rd. Now, this is a shame because I love Pompey as a club. They're great fans, and I would love to see them stay up. And I hope they do. I really, really do. But I was really hoping, and I was pinning a lot of my hopes on their form picking up after that really, really tough initial run of 7 league games at the start of the season. But since then, there's not really been much of an improvement. I know they've just had their first home win, and I really hope they kick on from that. But in the games I've seen, they don't look great defensively. And against a lot of teams that are down there, in and around them right now, Cardiff should have put an absolute ton past them. Stoke did, and as competitive as they've been, and albeit they've lost a lot of points from winning positions, I just can't see much in this Pompey team right now, which is going to see them put a run together, which is going to see them drag themselves out of safety and overtake a lot of the teams in and around them. So naturally, they were just outside the drop before. I think given how they've sort of continued to plateau and linger towards the bottom, it's only natural that I'm going to see them drop in my ranking as well. So unfortunately, Pompey drop into my bottom 3. And in 22nd, we've got another team who have dropped from outside the relegation zone into it. And they're probably, arguably, in fact they are, the biggest droppers in my entire 24. And that, in 22nd, is QPR. QPR dropped 9 places. I had them 13th. Previously, and I really, really thought with Cifuentes, after the job he did last season, I really believed that he would continue a solid sort of positive uphill trajectory with this QPR team, and they would just not have a season to remember, not have an outstanding season of ridiculous highs, but they'd have a season of just, stability, where they were just nice, steady, taking a step forward, progressing. But they've regressed back to where they were, you could say, under Gareth Ainsworth. Winless in 11, I think it is now. I know they've got injuries to a few players, but they really rely on Frey coming back and firing them out of trouble. Can they rely on Karamoko Dembele to come back in and create all the chances to get them out of trouble? I just don't see any redeeming qualities in this QPR team, other than they're not the worst defensively, but going forward, they look unbelievably blunt, worryingly blunt, and that's why in the position they're in now, I find it really, really difficult to see them overthrowing a lot of the teams that are above them in the relegation zone and even out of it. So that's why, unfortunately, I've got QPR dropping into the relegation zone in 22nd. So just outside the drop, and I'm going to pair these two together because these are two teams that were in the relegation zone. They were in the relegation zone in pre-season. They were in it again. I sort of refused to believe in them a little bit, but I'm believing in them both now, and that's Oxford United in 21st and Derby County in 20th. Now, the one big caveat I will say about both of these teams is they do rely heavily on their home form. Oxford have been fantastic at home, Derby as well. However, unlike Plymouth, for example, and this is why I've edged them both above Plymouth, I feel like Derby and Oxford are at least competitive enough on the road, and I still will pick up enough points just to keep them clear of danger. And even though Plymouth have done all right at home, I rely a lot more on these two, and I trust these two a lot more to pick up wins at home against anybody in the league. You know, Oxford have got results against Burnley. They've got points off West Brom at their place. Derby have done well at home as well this season. So I think that's what just gives me the confidence to pull both of these two out of the bottom three. Their fantastic, solid home form and their ability to be pretty competitive on the road too. So yeah, given these were two teams I really thought would struggle, I've now got them both to just about stay up. Moving in to the bottom end of mid-table then, I've got moving up 2 positions, Cardiff City in 19th. I think Omar Riz has done an outstanding job there and has certainly defined the new manager bounce, you could say. But there's no denying that Cardiff were hopeless before then, and maybe they're starting to level out a little bit under him. I think Cardiff are still a very unknown quantity because we don't know if Omar Riz is going to get the job. We don't know who they're going to bring in. If they change the manager and bring someone else in, it could equally go well. It could go south. They might take a backward step. I'd probably have faith on them just steadily finishing in and around mid-table if they keep Omar Rizza, but the fact they haven't still leaves me with a slight cloud of doubt in the back of my mind. But I've got them moving up, slightly away from the drop, but I wouldn't say they're in a position for me to be all that confident of them just yet. In 18th, I've got Preston moving up 1 position. Not much to say, really, about Preston. I thought pre-season and at the start of this that they would probably struggle a little bit, and although bringing in a manager like Heckingbottom will always make you feel a little bit more comfortable about Preston, they still aren't particularly great on the road. They still have really bad defensive performances in them, and they might rely quite a bit on Deepdale for them to pick up points. So I wouldn't say, again, with the new manager, I can be all that convinced he's going to drag them right up into mid-table, but this Preston side are nowhere near the top 10, top 11, top 12 team that we've seen in recent seasons. So I'm going to keep them in and around where they are for now. In 17th, or going up 1 position again, I've got Hull City. Once again, not much to really say. I put them there earlier in the season because of Tim Volter as an unknown manager and the incredible drop-off in quality in their team with the ridiculous loan signings that they lost last season, and nothing's really changed. We've saw very, very brief moments with Hull and what this team can kind of do, but other than that, it's been pretty miserable, and already there is quite a bit of discontent at the MKM with the manager, losing the fans, suicide football. We know how trigger-happy their owner can be. I just feel like Hull are extremely far away from being a content, settled football club right now, and anything could happen at any time, and that aura of unpredictability and instability, you could say at the minute with this manager, I can't have any confidence in them going anywhere other than where I've put them. So they're still right down there, and I've put them in 17th. In 16th, staying exactly where they are. I said this, I may have kept them in the same position throughout, to be honest with you. I have said they reserve this position. They may as well rubber stamp it. It's Stoke City. They always will be 16th. That's Stoke's thing. Listen, I think Narcis Palash has done all right since he's come in, and they're in a decent position now, but their underlying numbers still aren't great. And I just don't see Stoke going either way, to be honest. I don't have faith in them going up the table and competing with anybody in and around the top half, but I also don't think they've got, enough pitfalls to be in real trouble this season. I think things are going to take time at Stoke. I said at the start of the season they need a steady season where they can just build, and already since then they sacked Schumacher and they've started again. So forgive me for thinking that I'm going to see Stoke go around in the same cycle that we've seen them go through for 7-8 years now, but that's what I think will continue to happen unless they stick with this manager, and I think we will see progression eventually, but for now they're staying where they are. In 15th, dropping only one position. So again, a lot of these teams aren't moving very much. I've got Sheffield Wednesday. I refuse to get too excited by Sheffield Wednesday in the summer. I know they made a ton of signings and on paper they looked good. And when they started the season, everyone was thinking, wow. But their inconsistency is what's keeping them in mid-table for me. I just can't really get a good handle on what this Sheffield Wednesday team is going to be. One week they'll play really well. They'll look defensively okay. They'll get some, a good couple of points on the board. And then the week after that, they'll ship 6 at home to Watford. It's just, I can't put my finger on what this Sheffield Wednesday team is. So that's why leaving them where they are, in and around mid-table, is the safest option. In 14th, moving up only one position, once again, I've got Swansea City. I've said pretty much throughout all my Championship Roundup videos, I see Swansea as a very mid-table team. I feel like they haven't impressed me a little bit more than what I thought. Defensively, they've been fine, but they've obviously not been scoring many goals either. So again, another difficult side to really predict. They seem to be teetering on either a team that's defensively really good, who might start scoring more and then they'll move up the table, or maybe they're a team that are just really blunt in front of goal, and once they start conceding, they'll start dropping points. So I don't know, again, with Swansea, what to sort of expect. They've just screamed mid-table, pretty standard, pretty mediocre all season, and I've got no evidence to suggest they're going to be going up or down from where I had them before, hence why they're still in and around 14th. In 13th, we now do have a bit of movement. I've got a significant drop, and it is by 5 places, and I didn't think I'd be saying this. If anything, I thought I'd probably be bumping them up, but I've got Coventry City. Yes, a team who pre-season I thought would be playoff without a doubt. Even maybe dark horses for automatics. It's unravelled terribly, and even with the slow start, I still had full faith, especially after they beat Boro at the Riverside, because of course they did. I still had absolute faith that it's November, the clocks have gone forwards, Coventry are going to go crazy. Or did the clocks go back? I can never remember. But anyway, when the clocks move one way or the other, Coventry get going. But just when I thought that was happening, they sacked Mark Robins. And now it's up in the air. Who the hell knows where Coventry City are going to go now they've got rid of the manager who's been at the helm for nearly 8 years. They might bring in a Ruud van Nistelrooy, and it just works. It's a masterstroke, and they will do what Coventry do and fly towards the playoffs. They might bring in a Frank Lampard, who I'm incredibly pessimistic about. I don't rate him as a manager all that much. I don't think he's the man to propel Coventry up in and around the playoff race. So, fortunately, again, uncertainty plays a big part here. I've got them just safely in mid-table because I just can't predict them one way or the other. They could go forward, it might be the rocket up the backside they need, or things could unravel, spiral, and just go wrong. I don't know. What I will say as a guarantee is this Coventry squad should not be 13th, but the uncertainty around the manager right now makes me very, very hesitant to predict otherwise. So I've put them 13th, 5 places back. 12th, I'm sticking on Blackburn Rovers. They're another team who I think will eventually just level out. Listen, there's bright, brilliant moments from Blackburn. You know, the win they got last weekend, some of the goals they create were absolutely outstanding. And weirdly, they've gone from a team who were amazing at home and terrible away to now picking up away results and dropping points at Ewood Park. But I feel like Blackburn are a sort of team that will slide eventually, and consistency, or the lack of, will come back to bite them eventually, and that's why I think they will sort of slide in and around mid-table. So yeah, I feel like inconsistent home form going from good to bad, away form going from bad to good. Another team I can't really predict, so that's why I'm leaving them in 12th. In 11th, now this will look really, really dumb, giving, well, my pre-season predictions, and don't worry, we're going to compare all three at the end. The team I had to win the title pre-season, I dropped them down 6 positions to just outside the playoffs. I think you know where I'm going with this. And I've dropped them down again, moving down 4 positions in 11th. Luton Town. As I say, they were my title winners. I just, at the start of pre-season, and again, this was before a ball was kicked, this was before the majority of the transfer business was even done in any of the clubs, I was so confident that the clarity, everything, the continuity, everything about Luton would have made them the perfect team to come back down and bounce straight back up. I thought there'd be no issues. You know, Sheffield United had problems off the pitch. Burnley had a massive overhaul in players. I thought Luton have already got a fantastic, solid championship team right there. A manager who knows how to get them out of it. I just thought if there's a team who can just come down, acclimatise and kick on, it's Luton. And I still remain absolutely astounded by the position that they're in currently. It's absolutely mental. And I find it crazy, even crazier, that Rob Edwards is still there, given Portsmouth's comments after the Boro defeat. But I still just look at that Luton Town team and think that squad is just too goddamn good to be where it is. But I still, at the same time, can't now have enough confidence that they're going to just find something and fire themselves above so many teams and get right into that playoff mix. You just can't predict that right now without being either a Luton fan or having some blind optimistic hope or seeing something that maybe I'm not seeing. I do still think there'll be a degree of improvement, but I don't think it'll be enough to get them in the top 6. And again, uncertainty on the manager. He's still there right now, but if they come back from the break and they're losing games again, he won't be there by Christmas. No chance. And then who knows where Luton Town go. So another sort of unknown quantity at this moment in time, but I think it's mostly their squad that's given me a bit of hope that they'll climb the table somewhat. They have dropped from 1st to 7th, now down to 11th. In 10th, I've kept Bristol City where they are. I had Bristol City 10th initially because I thought they'll make good steady progress under Liam Manning without being a real top 6 contender, and I'm still sort of there. Listen, they're going under the radar, Bristol City, and they're not losing many games, which is a very good quality to have, but they're drawing a lot as well, and I feel like looking at their squad depth, I just can't have enough faith still that they're going to compete with a lot of the teams in and around the playoffs. I think they'll be one of them teams that flirt with the playoffs every so often, but as the season goes on, they will just fall slightly short, but they'll still be in and around the fight. I still think it's a good season. I still think it's progress. I've kept them exactly where they were. In 8th, I've got my biggest climbers of the whole ranking this time out. They've jumped 9 places. If you know your maths, it's Watford. So Watford are up in 8th, and I'm impressed. I can't lie. I'm impressed by Watford. And despite me still having concerns by their squad depth, despite me still having concerns by the manager, I cannot help but applaud some of the football, some of the goals they've scored this season. At times when they've been on it, Watford have been amazing. But again, home form, absolutely unbelievable. Away form, the complete opposite. And listen, a team who loses many games as they win will not make the top 6. And at the minute, Watford are winning as many games as they're losing pretty much. I think when the season gets going and some of the top teams find their feet and start winning a run of games, home and away, this current points per game rate of Watford's, I think, will cause them to just slip away slightly. But like I said with Bristol City, they'll still be in and around the fight, in and around the conversation. And I think given the neutrals pre-season predictions on Watford, 8th would still be, I think, an absolutely amazing finish. But I don't quite think they'll be in the top 6. They'll fight, I think, a lot of the way, but this inconsistent winning 5, losing 5, great at home, not good away, that'll catch up with them. That has to change, and that will only lead to them slightly dropping out. But if they're a team, who keep their home form, maintain it, and improve away, that's all they need to go into the top 6 for me. But if they're still rubbish away and their home form isn't sustainable, which it might not be, then they certainly will regress. In 8th, moving up 1 position, I've got Norwich City. My thoughts on Norwich haven't changed all that much. Again, like a lot of the teams I've just mentioned, I think they'll be there or thereabouts. But one thing that I was a little bit concerned by before was the new manager. I'm a lot more convinced by Hostorup now, but the one thing that still holds me back is I think an over-reliance on Sainz and Sargent, especially Borja Sainz. In recent games, when he's not scoring worldies or pulling them out, pulling goals out of his backside, Norwich would not have picked up the points that they would have. He single-handedly got the point against Boro, for example, with 2 unbelievable strikes. And I feel like when you've got a over-reliance on a player or 1 or 2 individuals, that's a dangerous place to be. So I feel like that might hold Norwich back, as well as their away form not being great. And now their home form, they've got that first defeat. They should have lost to Boro as well. So again, can they just rely on their home form to get them in the top 6? Probably not. Can they just rely on Borja Sainz and Josh Sargent? Probably not. That's why they're just going to fall short. In 7th, they have moved up 4 places, but to be fair, in September, I was still pretty high on this team, and I'm really glad I was because they've only continued to impress me. I've got Millwall. Now, Millwall are one of the teams of the season, and their underlying numbers has them in the top 4, and I think that's astounding. With the players they've got, the squad, no disrespect, but compare that to other teams, what they're doing is absolutely amazing. And again, I don't think anyone expected Millwall to be in the top 10. A lot of people had them probably down in and around the bottom 6, 7, 8 at the start of the season, but I had a little feeling about Millwall, and that's why I had them 11th, and I thought they might flirt in and around it, but I thought they'll be absolutely fine. And they've only continued to reassure me of that in the weeks since, and that's why I've got them in and around 7th. Listen, again, the clubs in the top 6, their squad depth, it's just too strong. But we've seen Millwall do this before, where they overachieve, they defy the odds, and they're there or thereabouts come the end of the season. And I recall when they were there and they had that game against Blackburn a few seasons ago. So often they've been on the brink, on the periphery, and I feel like they'll just be there again. Listen, I'd love to see them in the playoffs. Their leg at the Den would be amazing, unless you're the opposition team. But I feel like, yeah, a 7th place finish for Millwall would be out of this world, and I think that still would be amazing. So into the top 6 then. Who do I have in the top 6? Well, you'll notice the top 6 is the same top 6 that I had previously, but it's in a different order. Starting with 6th, dropping 1 position, I've got Burnley. Now, I do just think Scott Parker, and the football terrorist he is, he will still get Burnley enough results for them to be in the top 6. It would be a crime if that squad wasn't. But there are a number of things that make me a little bit pessimistic about Burnley. I think with Parker at the helm, they're not a very expressive team. They don't create much. I think a lot of results this season so far they've gotten because they were clinical, and in a lot of games they maybe overperformed and were not lucky, but they were just ruthless. And on another day, had they not taken their chances and the opposition were a bit more ruthless themselves, I think Burnley's points tally would look quite different. So I feel if anything, that will make them drop slightly behind the rest, but I just don't quite have enough balls to predict that Burnley would drop out of the top 6. But with Scott Parker, I can just never be all that convinced. So that's why Burnley have dropped down to 6th. In 5th, dropping 3 places, is West Brom. I put my neck on the line in the last prediction, and I was very high on West Brom, and they've disappointed me since then. I really thought they had all the characteristics of a team that could do it. I thought, the rate they were scoring goals, they had players that were banging form, how solid they were defensively, Carlos Corberan. A lot of things made me believe that they were the team to do it. And there were a lot of teams, in and around them that weren't firing back then, who are firing now. And although West Brom have not lost many games, they're not winning many either. And again, is there a reliance on Madger, Fellows, them sort of players to pull them out? I just don't know. But I can't drop them any further because Carlos Corberan will find a way. He will still pull results out. They will still be very, very hard to beat. I think it's just the goal-scoring side of it that worries me. And the number of goals at the Hawthorns, that just won't get them into the top 2. So they'll still be a playoff side, undoubtedly under Corberan, but I have dropped them down to 5th. In 4th, this will be interesting. I've got a team who I've bumped up 2 positions, and it's the current league leaders, Sunderland. I get why, and I know Sunderland fans will be watching this, probably ready to, and they'll be typing out in the comments, and I can hear it, I can hear the clicks, I can hear the keyboards. Now listen, there is no reason to suggest that Sunderland will not maintain this incredible rate of form of individuals as well as the overall team, and every time people think they're going to fall away, they stay there. And there's always a team like Ipswich who you think will go away, they'll drop off, and they never do. I would not be surprised to see Sunderland be that team, but they are starting to get caught up. And I still am yet to see what will happen when times get tough down at the Stadium of Light. They've done exceptionally well so far, but it's a young squad. Young players will go in and out of form. They've got a tough run coming up fixture-wise, and I do feel like when the games come thick and fast, that level of consistency will catch up with them. There's just, especially the top 2, I think, probably in most people's top 2 at this point, I think there are just squads in this league, especially the parachute ones, that are just way too strong. They'll overpower Sunderland eventually, and I feel like they will slip behind a few of them top teams in the end. But still, again, a lot of pre-season expectations had Sunderland mid-table, and with an unknown manager coming in, a very, very young team, for Sunderland to finish in the playoffs at all is an outstanding achievement, and I think fourth would still be incredible for them. But I do feel like this rapid start is starting to catch up with them, and the top teams with the top squads who haven't really got going themselves. Listen, there's no team in this league who's hit top gear. I think the teams above them, the top three, when they hit top gear, I think they'll motor over the top and into the top three. So that's why I have got Sunderland bumping up. Listen, I've still bumped them up. They've went from 15th to 6th to 4th. If they're still top two, it would probably be one of the greatest achievements of any Championship manager. I just can't be too convinced by that yet. Still there in January though. I'll be all behind the Sunderland promotion push. In third, moving up one position, I've got Boro. I've always been quietly confident about Boro, and it does help that I see them every single week and I do get the eye test. But it's not just the eye test, it's the numbers, it's the data. And I'm a big data guy, you guys know that. But I apply that data to everyone equally. I don't just choose to apply it to a certain team at a certain time. Boro have shot themselves in the foot so many times. We are the best creative team in the league, one of the best defensive teams in the league, and we're now up there with joint goal scorers in the league. All Middlesbrough Football Club have to do is simple: cut out the mistakes and we'll have no problem getting into the top six. So I don't have us top two because I think the top two, as I say, are quite common with everyone predicting at the moment, and I think consistently they've just got a better defence, and I think they've got the ability to just motor away with the top two. But I think the playoffs are wide open, and any team who puts together a good run at the right time can get in there. And we saw it at the end of last season. Boro are capable of putting together a run. We've got players who are firing. All we need to do is cut out the individual errors, and we'd be miles better off, and probably in the top 3 or 4 already. So I still have faith eventually the numbers will level out and we will get there, but I just don't think anyone else in this league can quite touch the top 2. That leads me on to the top 2, because in second, moving up one place, I've got Sheffield United. They just look solid. Two big things on the checklist that I feel like a automatic promotion team needs. One is a good defence. 2 is good home form. And Sheffield United have both of them. They do not concede goals. Their game management is absolutely outstanding. And the way that club's been managed, the way they've recruited, given the position they were in pre-season, I had them mid-table. I can't quite say how impressive the job is that they've done. Off the back of such a poor season as well, to just flip that around and sort of put it behind them and crack on in the manner they have, it's mighty impressive. I talked about a lot of teams who I can't quite rely on. Sheffield United are a team I can absolutely rely on. They're just a team that won't lose many games. If they're not playing well, they'll still find a way of picking up a point. Even in games where they don't play well, they'll still find a way to win. I just feel like they've got all the characteristics of a team that just will get promoted. Are they the flashiest? No. Are they the best on the eye? No. Do they create the most? No. But for me, they are just concrete. And that's why for me, in a league, that is a little bit more open, is maybe arguably a bit weaker or a lot weaker than last season, I feel like that's all Sheffield United will need to be to get themselves in the top 2. And that leaves me with my league leaders, which hasn't changed since the last ranking, and that is Leeds United. I think Leeds haven't even gotten out of second gear yet, and they're on the brink of the top 2. They're on the brink of top of the league, and they're not even out of second gear for me. They are the only team who I feel like at top speed, top gear, could go on a mad run of 8 wins out of 10, 9 wins out of 11. I don't see them losing many, if any, at Elland Road. I just feel like they are the only team in this league that could just blow everyone else out of the water. And once they get going, I can't see them being stopped. So it's a case of not if, but when this Leeds side starts to go through the gears, because I think once they do, that's one of the automatic promotion places sewn up for me. They are just, for me, the best team in the league. And when they get going, no one will get close to them. And that's why Leeds United remain my title winners. So there's my ranking, my updated league table, and this is a little comparison to before, just so you can see who's sort of moved up and down the most. So you'll see that there are some really big rises since my pre-season predictions. You look at Sunderland, who've risen extremely well. Sheffield United are another team that have rose quite nicely as well. A lot of the top two, a lot of the top six still remain as is, but Luton, Coventry, big droppers in there. You'll also see my bottom three has changed quite a bit as well, with QPR, of course, taking a giant drop as well. So yeah, have a little good look at that. That you'll be able to see how my predictions have evolved since pre-season. And as I say, that will be it for me now. I'm not going to do any more league table predictions. Naturally, you do this in an international break, and the next one isn't until March, which is just too close to the end of the season. A lot of the positions will probably be tap-ins by that point. So that is it. No more. That's my final league table prediction for the Championship, and we will, of course, revisit it at the end of the season to see how close or how far off some of my predictions were. But let me know yours in the comment section below, your 1 to 24s, or just where you think your team will end up in the comments. And as always, every fan, I get it, will say and will pose an argument as to why their team should be higher, why their team should win the league, or why their team shouldn't be bottom three. Every team has got to be placed somewhere. 3 have got to go down, 2 have got to go up, 4 have got to be in the playoffs. So if your team's not where you think it should be, let me know respectfully in the comments. It's just a harmless prediction. There's no agenda. It's just my genuine, honest thoughts. So please, calmly, let me know where you think your team should be in the comment section below. But until the next one, guys, do hit a like on the video. It really helps support the channel out, and subscribe for much more. We do Championship prediction videos ahead of most of the rounds, and we round up every single round of Championship games, as well as much more content here on the channel. So subscribe for all that good stuff as well. But until the next one, guys, do take care. See you all next time.